Yes!
This video probably won't get posted on time, but at the time I'm recording this commentary, it's June 25th, 2019, and I managed to finally unlock not one, but 2 Triumph Seals in Destiny 2. After months of blood, sweat, and tears, I finally got the Chronicler and Reckoner titles. I probably played more Gambit Prime in the past couple of days than a lot of people will ever play in their entire lives, and the triumph that took me the longest was Triumphant Reaper. I spent countless hours searching online for a comprehensive guide on the best way to unlock this triumph, and I didn't find much of anything, so I decided to put together my own guide. So without further ado, let's get it in. Be advised that you won't get credit towards any of these unless you have at least 10 points in a Reaper armor set, which will make the third perk for this armor set available. This will make a green aura appear over your Guardian's head, which is what the Triumph also refers to. If you're a couple points shy and can't unlock the third perk, consuming a Reaper synth will also work as well. Now, getting into things, you will have to win a total of 20 matches. This part really relies on your individual skill as a player and how on point your team is. Let me tell you now that Gambit Prime can be very stressful, and if you're slacking, you'll get overwhelmed. Then it goes completely downhill from there. When I was going for wins, I contacted the best invader I knew and ensured that my other 2 fire team members had either a full set of Gambit Prime armor or were incredibly skilled at Gambit in general. If I recall correctly, the step stating that you have to defeat 1,000 combatants refers specifically to ads, but this isn't necessarily something that you have to go out of your way for. I'm not certain if enemy guardians and blockers count towards this for extra points, so if anybody can confirm this, let me know in the comment section. And I say this because there's another step that requires you to kill 100 blockers and primeval envoys. This is another simple and over a period of time investment, since it's literally impossible to succeed in a game of Gambit Prime without defeating blockers and primeval envoys. If you weren't already aware of this, the primeval envoys are the taken wizards that spawn before the primeval DPS phase. All 3 of these wizards have a different elemental shield and must be defeated in order to remove the primeval shield to make it vulnerable to damage. Along the way, you'll have to kill high value targets, or HVTs for short. Listen for the cue when the drifter says that he spotted a high value target on the field.
I spot a high value target. Give him hell!
The HVT will always be a yellow bar enemy with a white glow covering its entire body. From what I've seen, the HVT spawns in one of the areas that the current ad wave is not present in. So when you hear the drifter say that the HVT is on the field, I suggest finding it and killing it as quickly as possible, because it'll eventually run away and you will miss an opportunity at progressing as part of the triumph. When defeated, all HVTs drop 13 motes, which is incredibly helpful. Now be advised that there is a catch-up method in Gambit Prime that'll cause enemies with the same white glow to spawn with the ad waves on the side of the field of the team that's currently losing. When defeated, these enemies drop 5 motes. I'm pointing these enemies out because they do not count towards the 50 HVTs that you need to kill. I played several hundred games of Gambit Prime, and the drifter only calls out 1 HVT per match. So, in order to complete this step, you will have to play at least 50 games of Gambit Prime. Now, the single most annoying and nerve-wracking part of this triumph is a step that requires you to earn 10 Massacre Medals. This step is the sole reason why Triumphant Reaper was the absolute last triumph I had to unlock to obtain my Reckoner seal. In order to obtain a Massacre Medal, you have to kill 12 enemies with no more than 3 seconds between each kill. And if you're a Warlock main like me, you'll eventually find out that this step can be the most difficult. Unlike Hunters and Titans, the Warlock class doesn't have a melee-based super, and I've seen more success getting Massacre Medals as the other 2 classes. I've witnessed past fire team members obtain these medals a lot easier with subclasses such as Arc Strider, Bottom Tree Striker, and Sentinel. But instead of starting all over and getting a Reaper armor set again, I became best friends with Trial and Error and eventually obtained the 10 Massacre Medals. If you're a Warlock player, you'll want to use Top Tree Stormcaller and Crown of Tempest. Top Tree Stormcaller doesn't have the best damage output, but the Chain Lightning attribute is what will enable you to clear ad waves quickly. The Storm Trance super will probably be the reason why you obtain the majority of your Massacre Medals, but unfortunately, you won't have your super all the time. To mitigate this, I equip all pieces of my armor with an Intellect mod. That reduced my super cooldown to about 3.5 minutes if I was to sit there and do absolutely nothing, but your super will cool down even faster while you're defeating ads and other various enemies on the map. Now, equipping 5 intellect mods isn't 100% mandatory, but it'll definitely make things easier, since doing so will get you your super back noticeably faster. I recommended Crown of Tempest for this because the Top Tree Nova Bomb and Skoladai Ahamkara method is nowhere near as effective as it used to be before the nerf. Before, you only had to kill about 6 ads to get your entire super back from a Nova Bomb kill, but now you'll be lucky to get a quarter of your super back after doing this. Crown of Tempest is amazing overall because it reduces the cooldown of all of your arc abilities, including your super, which will make the 3.5 minute cooldown I spoke about earlier completely irrelevant. If you play as a hunter, I suggest using Arc Strider with Rite and Flux. Rite and Flux will not only increase the damage of your arc staff attacks, it'll also increase the duration of your super. For Titans, I suggest using Bottom Tree Sentinel with Doomfang Pauldrons or Bottom Tree Striker. Bottom Tree Striker is amazing because it has great damage output, and each time you kill something, you return some super energy back. As stated previously, you won't have your super all the time, so you'll have to have a secondary method of rapid ad clear. I had the most success with Wrist Runner after getting the Arc Conductor buff. After taking art damage, you receive an empowerment that causes enemies shot by Wrist Runner to chain art damage to other nearby enemies, and the art damage you receive is reduced. Wrist Runner also does increase damage and has infinite ammo for 5 seconds, but this timer restarts and can keep going indefinitely, provided that you're killing ads. And the cool thing about this is that Wrist Runner doesn't have to be currently equipped for Arc Conductor to proc. If you aren't able to find a source to receive art damage from the proc Arc Conductor, you can throw an Arc Grenade at your feet to damage yourself to proc the perk. In order for this to work, you have to take damage from the initial detonation of the grenade. I also found out the Radiolarian fluid on the map Legion's Folly will also proc Arc Conductor. So say for example, the Drifter says that the next ad wave will be spawning on steps in Legion's Folly. You could jump into the Radiolarian fluid, proc Arc Conductor, and potentially get an easy Massacre Medal. In your kinetic and heavy weapon slot, you'll want to use something with a damage ramp up perk like Rampage or Swashbuckler. These two perks are amazing for the simple fact that they reward you for rapid kills and continue to increase in damage as you do so. I use a threat level shotgun from the Scourge of the Past raid in my kinetic slot, and that particular version rolled with Rampage. In my heavy slot, I use the Season 6 Gambit Prime Pinnacle weapon, the 21% Delirium machine gun. The overflow perk on this weapon can get your magazine size over 200, accompanying the Killing Tally perk, which works similarly to Rampage, but its effects don't go away until you stole the weapon. If I have to be honest, the kinetic and heavy weapons don't have as much relevancy as the Wrist Runner will, because in 99% of the instances where you're going for the Massacre Medals, you'll either be using your super or Wrist Runner. There are a few other things I would like to mention in regards to making it easier to get the 10 Massacre Medals. For one, the Vex will be the biggest thorn in your side, no pun intended. The Hobgoblins will always conjure their invincibility shield, and if you spend too much time focusing on it, you'll miss the 3-second window for the medal. Also, the Vex Cyclops can easily one-shot you with their Void Eye Blast. I've encountered many situations where I was 1 or 2 kills away from getting a Massacre Medal, only to be blasted out of my super by a Vex Cyclops. But out of all the enemies I went against, I would have to say that the Fallen gave me my easiest Massacre Medals. Fallen captains have arc shields which would detonate and damage nearby enemies if afflicted by arc damage, and since most of the Fallen weaponry is arc damage based, you're basically guaranteed to always have Arc Conductor procced. Now there's another thing that you need to do before attempting to go for Massacre Medals. Number 1 is getting a semi-accurate idea of how many enemies are within the vicinity. The goal is to rapidly kill 12 enemies, so if you don't see a number close to or higher than 12, it isn't worth using your super or setting up for Arc Conductor. Also, pay attention to the amount of ultra enemies in the ad waves as well. I never had a good experience with going for Massacre Medals when these enemies are present because their stomp can either kill you in one hit or send you flying across the map. If there's 1 or 2 of these ultra enemies present, but there's also a lot of ads around, and you're 100% certain that you can get a Massacre Medal, you'll want to damage the ultra and tell your fire team to team shield it. The first perk that you will unlock for the Reaper armor set is known as High Value Tracker. It enables you to mark and weaken HVTs and Ultras, and when marked, the damage that they receive is increased by a lot. As stated previously, you'll want to prioritize these enemies and get rid of them as quickly as possible, because they'll cause a ton of problems if you let them stick around for too long. Alright everybody, information overload over. I hope that this guide was beneficial to you, and I hope that you persevere and get that Reckoner title. Now if you made it to the end of this video and enjoyed what you watched, do me a favor and thumb rush that like button till it turns blue. And if you're new to my neck of the woods, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon so you don't ever miss a video of the most elite gaming content. But with that being stated, 1LXD is over and out. Y'all take it easy.